Good afternoon, everybody. It is 12 o'clock on March 5th, and we're here at the PUB Annex Building for our Finance Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. Do we have any public comments? No public comments? Okay. And then we'll go to the items for presentation and discussion. We have 4 items. Item number 1, presentation discussion of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board Financial Performance Report for the period ending January 31, 2025. Mike?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. So my name is Mike Pettis. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and I'll be presenting the financial performance report as of January 31st of 2025. So here we've got the executive summary which focuses on 7 categories. Each one has their own gauge meter, red representing poor, yellow average, and green good. On the flow of funds, PUB has generated $787,000 to replenish the improvement fund, and our debt service coverage is calculated at 2.12 times, which is well above the 1.25 times minimum, so we're doing well. The fuel purchase and energy charge, which is currently set at 0.05019 per kWh, has generated an over-recovery of $18.93 million as of January 31st. This will be used to offset any future market uncertainty. So that rate has been kept unchanged for the last 7 months through this month of March of 2025. The COB cash transfer is actually a little lower than budget due to the decrease in adjusted gross revenues. But when compared, the cash transfer is actually $210,000 above prior year's level. So we're still doing well. The personnel and non-personnel expenses came in about $2.1 million under budget, and primarily due to some current vacancies and because of some expense timing issues. BPUB's average bill, residential electric average bill is lower than both the average MOU bill and the average IOU bill for the 1,000 kWh user. The current bill is at $111.26 for that 1,000 kWh user. On CIP, year-to-date actuals and committed total $9.7 million and $30.3 million respectively, which represents 52.5% of the fiscal year 2025 approved plan. The year-to-date expenditures of $9.7 million are actually slightly above the plan level. So we're doing good at this level. All key financial metrics are currently in compliance. Moving on, here we have the condensed statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. This is in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We compare the current year-to-date balances to last year's same period. So operating revenues were $73,321,000, which represented $8.7 million increase from last year. There were minor changes noted in the base and the fuel revenues, but the major item that triggered the change was the use of $9,492,000 of rate stabilization funds that were used to pay down the customer's production costs back in November and December of last year as approved by the board. Moving on, our operating expenses of $63,993,000 did see an increase of $2.9 million from prior year. We saw an increase of $2 million in the contractual and other services, and $1.5 million increase in personnel costs, while we also saw a decrease in the purchase power and fuel by about $600,000. So we end up at line 3 operating income of $9,327,000. We then back out the net non-operating expenses of $6,697,000, and we end up with income before capital contributions of $2,630,000. Adding in capital contributions of $4,931,000, we end up with an increase in net position year-to-date of $7,562,000. Adding that to the net position at the beginning of the fiscal year, we end up with a net position at the end of the period of $482,698,000. On this last statement here we have the condensed summary of revenues and expenses on the flow of funds. This is in accordance with the bond ordinance. We are comparing year-to-date actuals with the year-to-date budget. So operating revenues were $70,598,000. Those came in $13.5 million under budget. This line item includes both base rate and fuel revenues, along with the out-system energy sales. So we did see on the base rate revenues, they were under budget by 4.3 million. Fuel was under budget by 11 million, and the out-system sales were actually above budget by 1.5 million. So that makes up those differences. Moving on, other revenues were 7,291,000, which were 442,000 above or under budget, I'm sorry. And so we end up with gross revenues of 77,889,000. We back out the fuel and SRWA contributions of 24,613,000, and we end up with adjusted gross revenues of 53,275,000. This is the basis for the city's 10% cash transfer calculation, which amounts to, or the total utility transfer would be 5,327,000. So now we back out the other requirements for the O&M, non-operating expenses, and debt service of 42,347,000, and we end up with a balance available after the requirements of 10,928,000. Now we back out the total cash and utility benefit to the city of Brownsville, their 10% share of 5,327,000, and we end up with a balance available for transfers out of 5,600,000. This 5.6 was used to fund budgeted transfers for CIP and some cash reserves of 4,812,000, leaving a balance to replenish the improvement fund of 787,000 year to date. Here again, our debt service coverage came in at 2.12 times. That concludes the financial presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, item number 2, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation of status of request for proposed for a vehicle lease program.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is Jose Cuellar. I am the Fleet Services Manager for Brownsville PUB. And this afternoon, I am be presenting the vehicle lease program that we are seeking guidance in. And the summary of, or the objective of the BPUB Fleet Management Department is to improve the performance of its fleet, reduce the cost and fleet downtime, while also improving fleet reliability and functionality through enhancing fleet practices. With that said, the benefits, I would like to discuss the benefits of a vehicle lease program, which include the following 6 points. These are not all inclusive, but these are the top key features. The first one would be the safety, which is a benefit that allows for newer vehicles that offers the latest safety technology available, such as automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, and blind spot monitoring. It also offers the lower upfront cost, which requires lower initial payment compared to purchasing the vehicle, which can free up capital for other expenses. The resale value, which is with proper maintenance, can preserve the vehicle resale value as well. The efficiency, which is minimizing the vehicle downtime that will allow other departments to have their vehicles in operation. Maintenance cost savings, which includes with a full maintenance program, routine or unexpected repairs will be covered through these maintenance programs. And finally, the end of lease option, which this allows BPUB the flexibility to return the vehicle, lease a new one, or purchase the vehicle at a predetermined price. Moving forward, the benefits of an all-inclusive full maintenance program, it's overall reducing operating cost, but monthly cost is fixed for the term of the vehicle lease. The coverage is available for up to 100,000 miles. It covers all manufacturer-recommended preventive maintenance services, such as oil changes, tune-ups, fluid, belts, and hoses. It also covers all unexpected repairs regarding engine, transmission, and batteries not related to damage or neglect. There's also a feature where they offer the 24/7 roadside assistance and towing that is also available. And of course, local maintenance service and repair locations within the city of Brownsville. And last, there is an automated preventive maintenance notification system which will notify BPUB program administrators, whether it's through email or text messaging. The vehicle types that would be included in this vehicle leasing program is 27 vehicles in total, which has 18 vehicles from FY 2024 and 9 vehicles from FY 2025, which includes pickups, utility trucks, full-size and mid-size SUVs, and a cargo van. And then the CIP funding allocated for these vehicles, as you can see in FY 2024, the approved funds available is $1,158,750, and for FY 25 is $912,827, which the total allocated and available funds for these vehicles is $2,071,577. And finally, the procurement summary, which we have posted twice back in August 31st, 2024 was the initial posting. It was advertised on August 31st and September 7th of 2024. 9 vendors were contacted. Unfortunately, there were 0 vendors who responded to this posting. And so we reposted, again, re-advertised in January 11 of 2025 and January 18 of 2025 and contacted 8 vendors. And out of the 8 vendors, only 1 vendor responded. That concludes the presentation. At this time, we are seeking guidance on how to proceed. We do have an agenda item for the board, but first we needed guidance from the Finance Committee in order to know how to proceed with this option.
Just a couple questions. One is, I look at this list of vehicles that we're interested in leasing. And, you know, so there's one vehicle, one of the trucks, we have a quantity of 2, and then we have the lease price, the monthly cost, the lease rate. Is that per vehicle or for both?
It's per vehicle.
Okay, okay.
It's per vehicle.
So some of these numbers seem significantly higher than, you know, just my quick Google searches. So along those lines, what vendors were contacted and how were they contacted?
I don't have the list of vendors, but I know Diane did provide that in the package. And so the way she does it is she sends them emails notifying them of the advertisement, and then they respond back, letting her know if they're interested or if they're not. And then I'm assuming that's how she proceeds with her process.
It would be nice to know if they responded and said they weren't interested, or if they didn't respond and we
Okay.
accidentally sent it to a wrong email address.
Okay.
We've had that happen before. You know, it's interesting because, you know, I look at some of our car lots around here, and a lot of these are just, you know, run-of-the-mill vehicles. There are a few that do need some specialty outfitting. So I'm wondering why, if any of our local car dealerships were contacted and what their opinion on this was.
I believe Diane did contact vendors within the valley. I don't know the exact names of the dealerships that she contacted, but I know as far as here within Brownsville, she did contact Tipton Ford, Tipotex, and the major dealerships. And I know she did contact some dealerships up in the valley. I just don't know the response that she got whenever she provided or requested the information from them.
Okay, I can guarantee you the board's going to want to see all that.
Okay.
I have some questions. So I feel uncomfortable about just one vendor, right, you know, and then you didn't bid the first time, they did not bid the first time, and they're gonna bid it, so they may, you know, if you're asking me to bid it again, then I'm probably gonna say, well, I'm gonna increase my margin, right, so I think the procedure's a good procedure where you send it out not just to 1 or 2, but you send it out to 9, 8, 9?
Yes.
But I still think that, I mean, I'm kind of surprised because this isn't really sophisticated stuff. Everybody offers this. There may be 1 item or 2, but it's not really, you know, difficult thing. I'm not sure if if you want to bid it out where maybe you need to get creative in the bidding. Here you'd identify specific vehicle models, like, something's a Tundra, something's a Ford, something's a Dodge Ram. I'm not sure if, why they're all different types. That's not my area of expertise, but, and then there may be some items that are not so complicated or in rate of supply where you can say, we're gonna take half this list, this stuff should be easy, let's bid this out, and you may get like 8 bids on this stuff, and then all this other stuff that's a little bit more difficult to procure, you may get 1 bid, right? But if it's, I don't know if the bid is, in other words, an all or nothing bid, okay? Because there's some stuff in there like pickups and vans, cargo van, a pickup, a crew cab, Explorer and Expedition. I understand like those 250s, that could be, you have a regular cab, another Tundra crew cab. I'm not sure if that would make a difference at all. I don't know.
Well, typically, specifically on this bid, when we bid it out on the specs for the vehicles, they're pretty much open to the make and model. So the vendor is gonna tell us which make and model they can provide for us. I do know that as far as for the utility trucks, which require the utility bed with those additional attachments on there, those are a little bit trickier because they have to calculate the cost that it's gonna take for them, I guess, to include to attach to those certain items that are required on them. But as far as specific make and model, we pretty much leave it open to the make and model that they can provide or make available to us. I don't know if we need to re-advertise or move forward with.
I think we'd like to see a lot more information about how the procurement process went forward and how we interacted with the vendors, because, it doesn't seem complicated, and I won't say the price is here, but, I did a quick Google search, and I could get a Toyota Tundra on lease for, I think it was $399, maybe a little bit more. That's almost, well, that's not the price, that's much less than the price listed here. So, there's some question, and it would be interesting to know, is it an all or nothing, if you don't have all these vehicles in stock, get out of here, or is it bid on some of it? Just all that information would be
Okay.
useful.
Okay.
And then the last thing that may be a little bit more difficult is, I think we need to if possible, only if possible, kind of a comparison of lease versus purchase, because you list the benefits there, and those are good benefits, but I can't tie that back to a number, right? And I understand that there's some maintenance here, there's preventive maintenance, some major stuff, et cetera, et cetera. But if possible, to go back to say, okay, these are the benefits, but from a financial numbers perspective, this is how much it's gonna cost us to lease, this is how much it costs us to purchase, outright purchase, right? And then say, okay, by far, and I know there's some assumptions in there, that's I kind of underscore if possible, if something can be done. I don't think it has to be exact, but if just look at it and say, because I would think that would kind of it's great benefits, but I don't know if it's costs more to lease or it costs more to buy.
Some purchase.
Some people are kind of very opinionated about that, right? So the numbers that you would have, I think, would help.
Okay.
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 So there's a little bit of work to do.
I'm going to say Al's a banker, so he probably does know exactly, but
I don't do car financing, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Will do.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yes.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 3, presentation discussion on water and wastewater charge comparison.
Yes, so good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. So we normally provide residential bill comparisons as part of the monthly financial reports, but do not provide water and wastewater bill comparisons. So at the request of a board member, we have compiled this water and wastewater residential charge comparison. So a few weeks back, We did forward an old water and wastewater charge comparison that had been developed by Wilden Financial Services, or water wastewater rates consultant. That was backdated to 2022. Since then, our staff has gone and visited the various websites and ordinances for these other utilities and came up with this new presentation or updated presentation. So in the past, we have usually referenced the average water consumption at 10,000 gallons. This time, we did analyze the total inside city water customers data and determined that the average inside city water customer consumes 5,150 gallons per month. And so with that said, this presentation will compare BPUB's water wastewater charges based on the 5,000 gallons of consumption. So this presentation was just updated yesterday. And so the presentation that was attached to the original agenda, we used 10,000 gallons. So we did provide copies of the updated presentations on your desk. So here we've got we present the monthly insight residential bill comparison for the combined water wastewater charges based on the 5,000 gallons of consumption. So we see that BPUB's average water wastewater bill was at $68.21, which is approximately 21.8% below the state average of $83.06. But we are higher than other neighboring cities. We are comparing against many cities in the RGV, along with some bigger cities in the state. So a lot of the other cities include Edinburgh, San Juan, McAllen, San Antonio, Laredo, Harlingen, Laguna Madre, San Benito, Raymondville, Mercedes, Austin. We got Military Highway, Water Supply Corporation, Corpus Christi, and Houston. So we do have a lot of comparisons here. And as I mentioned, staff did research the various websites and their corresponding ordinances to calculate this bill. So here's the breakdown just of the water comparison. So we see that the BPUB's water average water bill was at $35.04, which represents which is 32% below the state average of $46.23. But here again, it's higher than some of the neighboring cities. So it is very important to note some of the major distinctions between BPUB and the other entities. One being that BPUB is the majority owner of SRWA, reverse osmosis plant, which produces approximately 30% of the city's water needs. The RO process, as we know, is more expensive than traditional treatment of river water, but it does provide resiliency while others are dependent solely on the river. So the SRWA ensures long-term water security for the Brownsville community, and we'll look at an analysis on the cost on a future slide. Second, BPUB is also the only entity supporting a resaca program in our water utility. So the bill does include, that $35, does include a $6.25 resaca fee to support the resaca program for the ongoing dredging operations of BPUB's critical waterways and reservoirs, as well as to support the matching funds required to leverage the Restore and the CORE grant project improvements. I will say that the water utility is very capital intensive. The water 5-year CIP totals are $72.8 million, and the system does generate about $42 million in gross annual revenue. So most of that revenue covers our O&M and our current debt service, with very little amounts really going into our CIP. So here is a comparison of the wastewater charges. Well, before I go there, so as I had mentioned, here we've got the comparison of the cost between the water plants, the treat water surface water, and the SRWA on a per 1,000 gallons. And so here we see that the total cost for the water plants was $1.22 per 1,000 gallons, while the treatment for the brackish groundwater is at $2.84 per 1,000 gallons. So treating brackish groundwater is approximately 2.3 times more expensive. SRWA treated 2.5 billion gallons of water in fiscal year 24, representing 31.3% of the city of Brownsville's water needs. The combined cost of treating water was $1.74 per 1,000 gallons, which represents a 42.6% increase from the $1.22 that it takes to treat the surface water. The 42.6% increase, along with the $6.25 resaca fee, contributes to those variances that we're seeing in the bills as compared to with the other cities. And so now going back, this is the comparison of wastewater charges. So we see that BPB's average utility bill here is at $33.17. It is 11% below the state average of $36.83. But here again, it is higher than some of the other neighboring cities. And so just a little background information. So the wastewater system includes 2 wastewater treatment plants with a combined primary and advanced secondary capacity of 27.3 MGD, million gallons per day. The plants currently treat about 16.2 million gallons per day, representing 59% of that total capacity. Once the plant hits 75% of capacity, then we are going to be required to start designing for an expansion. At 80%, we need to be ready to bid out the project, the expansion project. So just some information. So now some of the reasons as to why we see that our rates are a little more expensive than some of the neighboring cities is because we do have 177 lift stations throughout the city, right, that pushes the wastewater to the plants. This lift stations require some significant maintenance. On average, PUB will spend between $5 and $6 million annually just to rehab the lift stations. That's CIP, right? BPUB also owns and maintains some 15 bio air systems that treat odors from some larger lift stations. So in contrast, the second entity that has the most lift stations happens to be Harlingen at 77 lift stations. So we have an additional 100 lift stations above that. So that's one of the reasons that our rates are a little higher. Now, the wastewater utility is also very capital intensive. The wastewater 5-year CIP totals were $59.1 million, and this system really just generates about $34.9 million in annual gross revenues. So that concludes the presentation. This same presentation will be made to the board on Monday. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Can I recommend that we also include maybe a safety standard? You know, I mean, the goal here is not to deliver the cheapest water no matter what. And it's not like power. Power, you know, an electron from plant A and an electron from plant B, they do the same thing. So the idea that some of these cities here have had water issues in the past year, in the past 5 years. Knowing the board member who requested this, I would totally recommend that we also include a public health, public safety kind of standard in this. You know, what is this extra cost also getting us as far as performance? You know, if you have a boil water notice every 5 days and you have the cheapest water possible, does that matter?
Okay, we'll see if we can generate some of that information.
Yeah.
Now, we did follow up and see if which of these entities had a superior water system, and most of them did, with the exception of Military Highway and Laredo.
Right.
But all the other entities
I'm
were.
sorry, I don't know what that is, superior. I see it everywhere, but I don't know what distinguishes superior.
The standards, yeah, I'm not too sure about what the standards are. I don't know if we have.
Is it just a standard of reliability, quality? Is it,
You're not drinking out of the toilet.
yeah,
So the superior water rating is basically based on violations. If you have any violations, it kicks you out. There's a certain threshold. So superior means there's no violations, and as far as water quality, and the state coming in and inspecting you.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
And the other thing, Mike, just real quick, and you touched about it, was like, because I know some people have gotten in trouble in the past, some of these districts, because they just delay, right, investment in infrastructure for capacity purposes, because they don't want to increase the rates, and then, you know, the regulatory agencies have to come in and, you know, take over. I mean, that's like a nightmare scenario, but
Yeah.
how do we compare with that in terms of capacity where we're at right now compared to some of these others? I know it's kind of proprietary information, but.
That might be hard.
Yeah, we would need to probably reach out to some of these entities and figure out what their capacities are. As I mentioned earlier, our plants are about 59% capacity, so we still have sufficient capacity to carry us over for many years.
Okay.
I hope.
For design standards, I'm going to add something for wastewater. If you hit a certain threshold, we have to be under design. PUB has ample,
Which is
wa-
at
you know,
75%.
capacity to be able to do that. What we could do is include in the presentation is where we are on design capacity, and what we're paying for the debt services is for the expansions that have occurred for both the water and the wastewater system at the plants. And so we have ample capacity to accommodate right now the growth that's coming into the city. And maybe as part of this presentation, if you all wanted additional more information than just strictly rates on what it is on our system, we will need a little bit of more time and defer it to the April meeting and not for Monday to include some of that information.
Okay, let me ask you another question here, especially on just the water part. But is it even worth it to run the numbers, assuming that we didn't have Southmost? To say, you know, if we didn't have Southmost, then the cost would be a lot less, and then comparison to some of the other water districts in Cameron County.
Right, and I actually did generate some of those numbers, and so if we didn't have Southmost, then we obviously wouldn't have that additional 42.6% increase in cost. And so if I factor that in, it would reduce the cost down to $23.13, and that's also excluding the resaca of $6.25.
Okay, so that, how would that do in comparison? Let me look at the,
So at 23, the lowest one was San Antonio at $17.24. But then when you start getting, we would be comparable to Harlingen, San Juan, in that area, 20-some
yeah,
dollars.
it'd be like Laguna Madre would be kind of close.
No, Laguna Mar is very high.
Yeah. I think that's worth to distinguish, because when I talked to, I talked to a mayor from another city yesterday, and they wouldn't stop talking about water, I mean, we weren't supposed to talk about water, but he wanted to talk about water and how bad they are, and, the difficult, shape that they're in, and they would kill to have what we have in terms of Southmost. So, yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but, I mean, the reliability that we have, us being such ahead of the game for such a long period of time, because I don't see the cost of water going down, ever. But I think it's just something maybe to highlight on Monday.
I'm going to pile on to Al's point, just as the president of the Southmost Water Regional Authority. We are pushing forward with expansion plans, as I'm sure everybody here in this room knows, and hopefully on this side knows too. This won't be cheap. This is going to be something we're trying to move intelligently forward with, but there is a trade-off between, of course, resiliency and cost. And so I think getting the numbers out there so people understand what this water resiliency is costing us now and what it will cost is very important. And may help the community decide and maybe give us a little bit more guidance on how they think we should go forward. I've had people say, well, just do it. And figure out the pricing later kind of thing. But, obviously we're not going forward with that. But yes. And then just because you mentioned wastewater, I do want to point out I was on a float Friday with a bunch of engineers from the wastewater group, and wanted to say thank you to all of them. Enjoyed riding the float with them, and thank you, for spending their time, their Friday evening with us.
Mike, just one quick comment. When you mentioned about lift stations, a lot of people don't realize that we're a very unique community, that we have 177 lift stations that require a lot of maintenance. And that factors into this expense, obviously, and I know you touched on that.
I mean, yeah, the city of Brownsville, we're the largest city in the Rio Grande Valley, right? And so we got a lot of area to cover. So in contrast, on the water side, we were looking at McAllen. McAllen has about 510 miles worth of water lines. compared to our 910 miles
Yeah.
of water line. So it's just geographically, the area that we cover is significant.
And you really don't want those lift stations to fail, so the maintenance
No,
is
no,
important.
yeah. A lot of maintenance goes into those.
Anything else?
I do want to add, what Mike just brought out is a very important part, because our geographical footprint in comparison to some of the cities that are there is much larger. And I think the maintenance required, well, I know the maintenance required and the time and repairs and repairing all of the system is not a comparison. So statistics for each one of these cities is probably important to be able to tell as part of the presentation we do to the full board.
Yeah, but we might not have all the statistics on the other entities by Monday. I mean,
So
we
I would
actually
recommend
have to-
April, if you all, to include all of that information to have a full report.
I think it would be smart, or else things could go non-linear very quickly, and, yeah.
We'll move it to the April meeting then and include some of this other information discussed, at today's meeting, so that way we have a full picture of our system in comparison to the other systems.
Okay.
If
and,
that is okay with
we'll-
the committee.
Okay, we'll just need to reach out to the one board member that had requested this item and just let them know that we're postponing it an additional
Right. I
month.
think it's just good information regardless for the full board and for the public. So,
So we are skipping it or postponing it till April? Is that what I'm hearing? Or are you still recommending we still present Monday?
Yeah, no. Yeah, get all
Is that- do you have an opinion on that?
I don't, I'll defer to you, all, because we're listening to it, and I'm listening to it, but I know that one board.
So you can tell her we recommended this. My thought is that I'd rather have a complete presentation.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
If it's complete, then yes, but obviously if there's stuff that you still have to gather, then,
yeah.
Right, and we won't have it by Monday.
no, then there's no
Postpone,
reason.
okay.
You got 2 days, come on.
By the way, we have sent this presentation to the board member, and she has provided information and feedback a little bit, so she's aware. I will reach out and let her know that we are adding based on the committee's recommendation for April for additional information.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mike.
You can
Don't-
have her
don't go
call
too far,
Art
though.
if she has any complaints.
Item number 4, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation to review and update the Finance Committee charter.
Sorry, I prematurely sat down. So, the current Finance Committee Chair charter was last approved on April the 8th of 2024. As per the charter, the Finance Committee is responsible for reviewing and updating the committee's charter annually. And so the Director of Finance and I have reviewed the charter and have no recommended changes. So if any of the committee members have any recommended changes, we can certainly incorporate them into the charter before we present this to the full board in April. So I don't know if you all had an opportunity to look at it, but if not, if you review it and you have any changes, just communicate those back to us and we'll incorporate them.
I don't have any changes, do you? No, we don't have any changes.
Okay, that's all we have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'd like to recess to close meeting to consider matters pursuant to Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. We have, let's see, one item, a presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation of information upon pricing of the purchased power generation and fuel and their impact upon the fuel purchased energy and marketing charge. Okay, is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved?
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, we're back from our closed session. It is 1:09. There was no action taken in our closed session. So we have another item, discussion and/or requests for future agenda items. Are there any requests? There's no request. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Is there a second? There's a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.